Hello, RSM students. My name is Casey Scott. I'm the lead pastor at Chapel Rock Christian Church here on the west side of Indianapolis. And I'm also an RSM mentor, and I have watched with great joy how the school has embraced this new hybrid ministry training model. It didn't exist when I went to Bible college at Ozark Christian College in Joplin, Missouri back in the 1990s. So if you do the math, you'll quickly realize I've been at this a while, well over 20 years. And I think that this model of training students for ministry is really cool. And I'm excited that you're part of it. I think I can boil ministry down to one idea. It's becoming more like Jesus and training other people to do the same. That's what we want to do, right? So Jesus dealt with everything in ministry that we're going to face, which means that Jesus had to deal with conflict. Jesus had to have hard conversations. And so what I want to do today is begin by doing a little inductive study on how Jesus managed conflict. So here's what I want to do. I want you to pause the video. I want you to open up your New Testament to Matthew's Gospel. And I want you just to look through the Gospel of Matthew and look at the places where Jesus was in conflict. So hit pause and do that real quick inductive Bible study. Okay. So, you've had a chance to look through. Let's just kind of walk through this, okay? So, when was Jesus in conflict? Well, a lot of different places. He was in conflict with demons in Matthew 8, with John's disciples in Matthew 9, with the Pharisees in Matthew 12, with the teachers of the law, in Matthew 15, with the Sadducees in Matthew 16, with Peter in Matthew 18. He was in conflict with the fig tree in Matthew 21, with his disciples and Judas and the Sanhedrin, all in Matthew 26. In chapter 27, he was in conflict with Pilate and the crowd. The point in all this is that Jesus was constantly in conflict with others, and none of it was his fault. I mean, if the people around Jesus would have lived a life of perfect righteousness like he did, none of that conflict would ever have occurred. So you can bet that if you want to become like Jesus, you're going to be in conflict. It's not if, it's when. And so that's really the big idea of my tool talk today. Conflict is unavoidable, but if you deal with it like Jesus did, you'll thrive in a life of ministry. Right? You can't avoid conflict. If you just wilt like a flower in the hot summer sun when there's conflict, then ministry, especially leadership ministry, it might not be the place for you. All right? You can't avoid it. And to be clear, I'm talking about conflict in a very broad sense here. Not just like having a fight with your elders or the board of your church, but conflict with volunteers, with people that you disciple, with your spouse or your kids or your family. For some of you, that could even be conflict with your government. I don't know. I'm really speaking in very broad terms here because constantly being in conflict, no matter what kind it is, will drain your energy. It'll make it very difficult for you to continue serving the Lord to the level that you're capable of doing thanks to your training from RSM. Okay? So you have to manage these unavoidable conflicts like Jesus did. So how do you do that? Well, 20 plus years in full-time ministry has taught me that there is one essential skill that you must have. You have to excel at crucial conversations. You got to be good at having a crucial conversation. One of the things that I'm so amazed by in Jesus' ministry is the masterful way that he conversed with people. Right? To the broken, he was tender, almost maternal. To the proud, his words bit like a chisel, chipping away at their pride. To the humble seeker, he was lovingly direct. To the people just looking for the spectacular, he could be frustratingly parabolic. Jesus always had just the right words for every conversation. Here's the thing. I don't think any of his casual conversations got recorded in Scripture. The ones we have the record of are his crucial conversations. Well, what is a crucial conversation? There are three qualities that make a conversation a crucial one. The first is that there's high stakes. There's something on the line. There's something up for grabs. Like, you're not talking about the weather. Something has to change here, right? The second thing is that there are opposing opinions. People are disagreeing, often quite forcefully. And the third thing is related to that. There's strong emotions, right? There's heat. There's passion behind their words. And you can learn a great deal about how to have those kinds of conversations where something big is on the line, where there's a significant difference of opinion. where people feel strongly about it just by paying attention to how Jesus had his conversations. And while that inductive approach, working through Matthew, has a lot of value, it's also a little too open to eisegesis, kind of reading our own opinion into the text. I like it when Scripture is backed up by research, which is what I want to recommend to you. I want to recommend a book called Crucial Conversations. That's where I got the term. It's not original to me. This is the best book I have ever read on how to have a conversation, help people communicate effectively, and either avoid or better yet resolve conflict. There's nothing better than this. I would contend that nearly all the conflict in the church, in marriages, in parenting, in the workplace, even in government, is avoidable because people don't communicate clearly. When they get into a crucial conversation, they miss it, they fail. And so what I want to do is briefly kind of give you an overview of this book and teach you a couple of the skills in it, and then encourage you to read it at your earliest convenience. All right, remember, the reason for looking at this is that these conversations are high stakes, they're emotionally charged, and they generate conflict. And they will totally sap your energy for ministry. All right? They will provide opportunities for the enemy to influence your ministry and take you quickly into depression and discouragement and exhaustion. And you combine those three and they lead to burnout. And that too much has been invested in you. So before we get into this, though, hit pause again and talk about what are some situations that could lead to a crucial conversation. Just, hit pause, talk about what are situations in your life that could lead to a conversation that's high stakes and emotionally charged, and that they're opposing opinions. Okay, hopefully you came up with some. The authors talk about how so often we make the fool's choice of silence or violence. I'll talk more about that in a second. And they talk about how to get past that fool's choice and add to the pool of meaning, their phrase. One of the most helpful sections in the book is the one on how to understand your own heart in the heat of a conversation, and how to focus on what you really want, a solution to this, not just on getting out of it or on winning the argument, all right? And then they give you the tools on how to know when a conversation goes crucial. You watch the content and the context, and how to see places in conversation where it starts to feel unsafe for people. And then there are a lot of helpful ways on how to make it safe for people to enter into that crucial conversation with you, and how to understand their motivations. There's a couple really helpful chapters on methods for talking about very sensitive subjects. And it teaches you how to listen well and draw people's story out of them. And finally, the authors address how to transform a crucial conversation into action. Like, what do you do? Okay? As I was reading this book, I remember thinking, I bet this is how Jesus had his conversations. He always said just the right thing. Now, he could also see into people's hearts, right? John tells us. But I think Jesus also just had incredible, crucial conversation skills. So let me tell you a story about how I used the skills here in ministry. When I came to the church I'm currently serving, our staff meetings were tense. There was obviously a lot of unstated conflict that happened before I got there, and they were arguing about the budget and the best way to use the building and the best way to allocate church resources. It felt like a mess to me as the new guy. It wasn't fun. So I made them read this book. Not optional, right? Now, 5 years later, we laugh in our staff meetings. We have productive conversations. We're in sync on the mission and on how to use resources. Ministry is a lot more fun, So in closing, let me give you 2 tools from the book that have made a huge difference in our team life, all right? Here's the first one. Number 1, refuse to make the fool's choice of either silence or violence. Now, they use the word violence. I wish they would have used the word assertiveness or aggressiveness. I think they did it because it rhymes. What they're talking about is, in a crucial conversation, either we power up on someone, we get loud, we get big, right? Our demeanor gets big, or we just shut down and we just check out of the conversation and maybe even the relationship, all right? You've got to realize that there's another option. You don't have to make that fool's choice between powering up on someone, just bowling them over, or shutting down and withdrawing, from the talk and even the relationship. All right. I want to show you this graph. All right. This is related to this. It's in the PowerPoint. I just printed it off. It's just kind of the easiest low-tech way to do this. But basically what you have is, the y-axis is your concern for the relationship. Your x-axis is the need to win. All right? All the way down here at the bottom, you've got withdraw. Just check out. I'm done. All right? All the way up here, you've got yield. Like, listen, I love you. You can have what you want. I love you too much. I don't care about the situation. I don't need to win. Here, you win. It's cool. Just your way, okay? All the way over here, you've got dominate. No concern for the relationship, but need to win. This is not good. This is not Jesus, okay? In the middle, you've got compromise. Like, yeah, I kind of need to win. I care about you. Let's meet in the middle. All the way up here, high concern for the relationship, high need to win is consensus. We're going to have a crucial conversation. We're going to really come to this kind of mutual purpose and find consensus. And that's really the second tool that I have for you, is to find a mutual purpose. One of the most helpful suggestions that the book makes, and one that I've seen work over and over again, is to find a purpose that you both agree on and lean into that as a way to make a crucial conversation safe to have and productive to the mission of Jesus. Okay? In the story I mentioned earlier, I told you that the staff meetings were really tense because they were, arguing about the building, a project we called repurposing. And I had to get them all to agree that the purpose was not to resource each ministry with space in the building, but for the church to reach her redemptive potential. We had to come to the conclusion together, a mutual purpose, that none of us owned a particular room. The whole body owned the building. So the whole body needed to be able to use it. And once we agreed on that idea, we quit fighting. We started communicating. And that 18-month-long fight that went on before I got there ended in less than a month. Problem solved. All right? To paraphrase a line from the 1973 crime drama, The Friends of Eddie Coyle, ministry is hard, man, but it's harder if you're stupid. Okay? So take it from someone who's been in the trenches for over 20 years. Not improving your interpersonal communication skills when it's really pretty simple to do, and there's even a book on how, it's pretty dumb. Listen, the mission of Jesus needs you to be the best you can at this, and by God's grace, you will be. Thanks for letting me speak to you today. I hope you enjoy your discussion.